Second item on the agenda is an executive session pursuant to section 24-6-4024F of the Colorado Revised Statutes for the purpose of a personnel matter related to the town administrator. My understanding is the town administrator wishes this to be an open meeting instead of a closed meeting. Is that accurate?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are now in the executive session. Do you still want the disclosure read?
No, this is not an executive session. You could skip those provisions.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we have a resolution to start, and then we'll allow the town administrator to make comment. Resolution number 20-17, a resolution of the town of Milliken, Colorado, initiating a personnel investigation regarding the town administrator and placing the town administrator on administrative leave. Whereas one or more of the members of the Board of Trustees for the town of Milliken has received information raising questions about the performance by the town administrator of his official duties. Whereas the board desires to inform itself fully before taking formal action with respect to continuation or termination of the town administrator's contract. And whereas the interest of fairness, an independent investigator should be appointed to make inquiry into and investigate the town administrator's performance of his official duties. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees on the town of Milliken as follows. Members of the board who wish to identify matters for investigation or possible witnesses to be interviewed shall have such information to the town attorney by mail or email on or before July 8th, 2020. The town attorney is directed to assemble and report to the board at its July 8th, 2020 meeting a list of individuals, including their credentials, recommended for the purpose of conducting an independent personnel investigation of the town administrator. Pending the outcome of the independent investigation, the town administrator is hereby placed on administrative leave effective immediately and shall surrender any town property, including keys, until further action is taken by the board. The town administrator should be paid his full pay and receive full benefits, but is instructed not to conduct any business of the town whatsoever. That is the resolution. At this point, we'll move forward with allowing the town administrator to make comment. You have the floor.
Thank you. A third ambush. I have no idea what I'm even being accused of.
Exactly.
Will anybody tell me the matter or the type of things that I have done wrong?
I believe that we put a process in place whereby we will forward that to the town attorney.
Well, I think
And you
it's
will
improper
get that
that I don't
information.
get any input as to what I'm looking at. I've been accused of a lot of different things and it just kind of keeps shifting. I've got people here today that could help me speak to the issues of the letter that you received that was unsigned from Brett Hall that had a lot of allegations in there. And I've got most of that team still here that could answer those questions. I was prepared to answer some of those right now. There was also some questions previously this year with County Road 46, and I have my finance director that is here or was here that was able to answer those questions. You know, you're putting a cloud over the town and over myself, and this isn't fair to the town. It isn't fair to me, but it isn't fair to the town. Nobody from staff or any of our associates that are here know of anything that could possibly have gone wrong. We work as a team, and I tried to write you a letter stating that. I'm not afraid to have whatever you think you've got brought out in open session. That's why I said, let's do it. I know I have done nothing wrong. You can't point to one code or guideline in the town that I've done something wrong on. And to treat me like this and try and ruin my reputation and run me out of town without even an indication of what you're looking at, that's nuts. It's just improper.
I understand.
I've lost a lot of respect over the last 3 meetings on how I've been dealt with. You know, my point of contact is the mayor. Peggy, I know you're concerned about you not getting the Hillsborough letter. That was given to the mayor. I don't know. I've tried to comply with everything that I've been asked to do. I try and do things by statute, by guidelines, by the town code. And if you don't have anything, you know, let's not have a Russian collusion witch hunt in Milliken. This is nuts. That's all I got to say. I don't even know how to fight something that I don't have a chance to fight. We've talked about the things that have come out in the board meeting or in the last board meetings. And I don't know. It's very, very frustrating. I don't know how some of these other politicians in Washington put up with it. I'm not a politician. I'm not used to this stuff. I don't think anybody is. Your board meetings, Mayor, would be a great learning tool for CML on what not to do. I've never heard of anything quite like this happening anywhere in the state of Colorado. I'm beside myself. We came here, we're doing this, and you're going to put me on suspension for a while and look into things, and you don't really have any basis for it.
This is not at the point. We had comments in the very beginning.
Yep. Let's keep everybody quiet.
Well, board choice. Do you want to continue allowing public comment?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. I understand the role that this board has relative to the personnel matters and who is the employees that answer to the board. What I am not seeing here is fair due process. Now, if there is an inquiry and if there is an investigation, that should actually occur prior to any actions taken against the employee. So you haven't actually brought any charges, you haven't levied any accusations, but you are implementing a suspension, which by nature implies something is wrong. So due process, in my opinion, as an outsider looking in, would first have the board make its inquiry, first substantiate the claims, and then if those claims can be substantiated, then it would be appropriate to take action, whether it be corrective or mitigating actions. But it seems to me that Mr. Singwald is not getting fair and due process by you basically throwing him to the bench and then saying, we're going to investigate you while you're sitting on the sideline. And if we don't find anything, well, where does he go back to get his reputation? Because you guys are preempting a decision. The perception, and you know this in small communities, perception very, very rapidly becomes some people's reality. So I implore you as good stewards and leaders of this community, offer fair and due process before you take action. That would be my request, Madam Mayor, members of the board. Because if you are going to allow a single individual come in and terminate a town manager, use you as that tool, you're not going to find another town manager who would ever come into that hostile work environment that knows that anytime if you say one thing wrong to the wrong person, you get this inquisition. I wouldn't do it. So I implore you for fairness, for honor and integrity, please afford due process. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Any other comments? board discussion. Yes, trustee Wakeman.
I would like to answer Tim's comment directed to me.
Okay, yeah.
Tim, I asked you for a copy of the documentation on what was being corresponded to Hillsborough folks. These are my friends, my co-community members over the years. And it's very difficult for me to meet them in public and them to say the letter that we got. And I don't have any idea what the letter is. But for me, this is not part of what we are here for, whatever disagreement you and I have. That is procedural.
Okay.
And if I ask you for a copy of a document and then when you say yes, you'll give it to me, I honor that, and I hope that you honor that too.
Trustee Wakeman, my point of contact is the mayor, and I gave the mayor that letter.
Okay, so.
That's
let me
what the
finish.
town code says, and all this stuff's going on. If the board makes a decision that I should send it out to everyone at the same time, I'm real happy to do that. That kind of opens transparency. The issues or the concerns that may have been raised about the Hillsborough, and then Brett Hall made comments about the Hillsborough group. When I explained that to Dean and Tom, Dean got very animated and said, "My God, you're the best town administrator we've worked with in the last 3 you've had. I am not allowing them to get rid of you." And Tom came in and made his piece and basically said that. Did I say anything wrong, Tom? You can't hear me over there? I said, Dean said that I was doing a great job with the Hillsborough board.
Yeah, you've done a great deal there. Dean told me that before, and he said if you needed him because of his health, he couldn't make it back down here after we had signed some papers with Cheryl in town hall over there. And as far as my concern, you and I butted heads over things. We haven't had the best, but we've worked it out.
Absolutely.
The rest of them, when it's been other town administrators, it's just do to me and the hell with you. And I don't like that at all. If you're gonna work something out, talk it out between people. Don't just come in and take over and push me aside and do what you wanna do. That makes me awful mad, and it's happened with this town more than once. And people don't listen, they don't wanna do anything, and then they sit on their hands, and then when something comes up, why then they wanna accuse somebody else. There's been a hell of a lot worse, excuse my language, in this town as far as administrators than what you've ever been, Tim. At least you communicate and come out with the farmers in the surrounding community and ask questions. What's our opinions? What should be done? What should we think about? And you always have. You've come out to me more than once and asked me, about this. I've got a ditch out there right now that they allowed a stupid engineer to put in. And when they put the ditch in, there's no crossing for me to clean off the grade or nothing else.
Time out. That's another deal. I'll work with you.
Understandable that remark, Mr. Garner.
But,
Stupid engineer. Well, I might be offended by that.
but Peggy,
So,
Okay,
Before we
Trustee-
get-
Let's
Trustee
bring this back.
Wakeman, I just wanted to show you that there's so many vicious rumors running around right now. I just want to get it put away, get it done. We're here right now. Let's do it. Let's figure out whatever it is. We can probably answer whatever question you have, but to do an inquisition, a continued beat down, that isn't going to do the town any good. I got so many doggone things going on so many different levels with so many different people for the benefit of the town. I don't have the ability to drop off for a month and then come back and do it. And like Mr. Vasquez said, it's appearance. If you give the appearance that I'm getting beat up, It'll never work the same anyway.
Tim, are you listening to me?
Yes, ma'am.
I am not, what I just said is not a criticism of you. It is a clarification. I asked for it, you said yes.
Yep.
And if you gave it to Mayor Austin and she didn't send it on,
She didn't send it on to you? No?
I didn't know Peggy had asked for it.
You were in the meeting.
Well, I didn't register,
Right.
so I'll make copies and send it to
So-
the board.
Some of my stuff
me-
probably isn't getting to
Tim.
everybody.
let me finish,
All right.
please. I am not criticizing. All I'm saying is, if you cannot follow through with something that you've said to me you will do, please just send me an email and say,
Okay.
I can't get that to you, okay?
All right. I tried.
So
I tried.
I would not have even brought this up, but since you brought it up, I want to clarify
Okay.
where it was at, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Is
So-
there any more discussion?
Yes, I want to make a comment, and I want to make this judiciously because we are at a point where I think we've just demonstrated some of our concern. Peggy 3 times was talked over by you. She tried to say something. I'm sitting here watching and listening. We were very silent and gave you your moment to explain. I don't think you're helping yourself or the situation by continually over talking a board member that's trying to explain something. She didn't even get a chance to finish. I think we all can see that. And so this is not the accusation against you, but I think it would do us all well to hear each other to the completion. That's what we're trying to do here, is understand the matter in its entirety. And if we listen to Peggy through, there may be information that comes out in the latter part of that comment that may resolve the issue. But I think if we answer a matter before we hear it, it's folly and shame to us. So let's listen to each comment that's made in its entirety, give that person a moment to speak. And then if you have a response, we'll raise hands and respond. But I do think there's a lot to be heard here. And now I would like to make a comment myself apart from that. And that is that I believe that the resolution that was here is not intended, and I do resent the comment that it was a Russian collusion, because I don't think that is. I think what we're trying to do is get to the bottom of these issues, and there are a number of accusations that have been brought, not necessarily by us, but have been brought to us. I wasn't there at the conversations. I wasn't there at the events. So I don't have firsthand witness. And so I'm trying to understand as a board member that's been here for 2 months, what the facts of the matter are. I don't know. I'm trying to discern that. We have had relationship and communications. We've had things happen and go on, and I've seen some of that. I've been being on the planning commission. I've had privy to some things. But there's a lot of, you saw there was 4 pages of accusations. Some of them I believe to be founded, some of them I don't. And so I don't think it's a blanket statement by myself or anyone here that we think this party is total pure and honest and this party is total, in fault. We're trying to discern the situation here. And so I think part of this point and the point to the resolution is to kind of take a step back, not muddy the water any further, and let's understand what the real facts are in this situation. Is what they said true? Is what you said true? Is, what's going on here? We're trying to be honest and fair about this. It's not a witch hunt, I don't believe, at least not from my end. It's trying to understand what really is the matter.
Thank you. Any other comments from trustees?
May I respond?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh, yes, please do.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I wasn't allowed a chance to respond the other night. You guys adjourned rather quickly. The item with respect to the irrigation lateral.
Mhm.
If you look at the document that you have, it says the storm drainage easement is being vacated. That's different than the irrigation lateral for the Hillsborough ditch. Also, the comment on that sheet in the corner was not addressed in the description of what was actually being done on that plat. That is standard practice. I brought John Vasquez in here to discuss what common practice is, because what you were told Wednesday night was not true, and I wanted him to be able to talk to that point.
Okay.
Could we get that out of the way right now, since he's ready to discuss that?
So before we do,
Yes, sir.
I would like to state that part of the purpose of this resolution was not to bring everything that is being accused out into the public and air dirty laundry, so to speak. It's not that we're afraid to do so. It was for our own and your protection. Hang on. So there are, I can see you're biting your tongue. There are accusations that may not be founded, but let's collect them. That was the point of an independent investigator, was someone who's not on either side. They're not biased in any way. They're not on the board. They're not in your chair. They're just looking at the situation, and they can present for honest discussion. Here's the issues. Okay, these are not founded. There's no evidence for these. These there are. And to try and collect that, and then through Matt Gould or whomever, present those to you for explanation, try and understand the facts of the matter. If your preference is to air the dirty laundry, so to speak, I think that would be something the board would have to make a mention on. But I really think it's not wise for us or for you to go point by point here and now. I think there will be a time for that. Go ahead.
I have no dirty laundry. Whatever I have done is viewable in daylight by all the citizens or whatever. I haven't done anything. I think if John was allowed to address you and explain that documentation on that sheet, that would probably change a lot of your thoughts right now. But what I suggested in my letter to the board, I hope you all got that and were able to read it, is the proper way to question a barrage that was sent out like that is to get my team together. I'm a town administrator. These are the licensed personnel that work for the city that deal with these things. Things come to my attention when there's an issue. Then we get together as a team, we talk about it, and we come up with what our position is, or what can we negotiate on? Where are we? What do we do? And everybody that's been on staff has been in those situations where we talk as a group. I don't think I've ever made a decision that wasn't group oriented. But I would love if you would at least let Mr. Vasquez address that, because I know that was a issue that Mr. Hall beat pretty hard, and I was upset because he didn't really cover the facts correctly.
I'd like to hear it.
Are you done with your question?
So this is for the board.
Yes.
Do we want to continue into specifics, or is now in time the place?
Well, in the goal-setting session, Tim had said that he would go over everything in that letter, point by point, in the June 24th meeting. That was not done, so we had to ask questions and try to pry the information out. It was a very rough board meeting. Okay, you look confused, Tim. What is your question?
He never got a chance. He never had the opportunity to speak.
There was nothing on the agenda for that. Nobody asked for anything. I'm not aware that there was a request for something. There was a comment period, and Quite honestly, we were all sitting here saying, what's the Halls doing here? They're not on the agenda. And then it's not a very common practice, if it's ever happened at all, that something like that happened under the comments section. I haven't looked into that to see
So
how
you,
inappropriate that was, but that's nothing that I've ever been involved in before, and we were just shocked that that happened. I wasn't given an opportunity to answer those questions. The one question that I know that is a big one, that was a beat down for 40 minutes, half hour. And then you guys adjourned right away. You know, and when you get beat down like that, you fall back on your heels and you get punch drunk. And there were new things that were brought out. You guys started up with hammering me on the second lift on asphalt, and I have no idea where that came from. A lot of times you don't want the second lift or the upper lift. Sometimes you do. They've done it both ways. We were agreeing with John Hall to help him out on his bond. And I questioned him there in front of you, and he said, yeah, that was about right. But half the time I'm being accused that I'm picking on lot holdings, and then half the time I'm being picked on by you because I gave them benefits. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm spinning in circles. I don't know where you're going. I don't know what you're doing on that stuff. But I would love it if John would talk to the overtopping. That was the second lift. That was a huge thing all of a sudden. And we've all looked at it. We've all talked about it. We have no idea at all what that was such a big issue with you on. It doesn't make sense to be a critical thing. And the lateral, they're all easily answered things, and there's nothing wrong or improper in the way that we've dealt with it. I think you've been given some false facts and misunderstandings of what's actually happened. And we're trying to address that now. We're ready to address a lot of that right now. And if you've got other things I don't know about, my God, I don't even, you know, I am getting punch drunk. I don't know what else you've got. But I don't have any fears that there's anything there that I'd be embarrassed about. We've done a very good job, and this is not the way you treat a town administrator that's working hard for the town. The board has certain lanes to stay within and to do. The town administrator has a job to do. If you can't point to something that I did that was wrong within my guidelines of my job, and you cannot point to a code or a violation that I broke, I do think this is a sham thing. I think someone's trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. At least the big issues that were last Wednesday night, let's go somewhere. Let's accomplish something. Don't just sit there in judgment and not give me a chance to at least answer some of this stuff so that maybe you come to the conclusion that, oh, maybe some of the other stuff is wrong too. The two big ones are the second lift and the lateral, the irrigation lateral. Those are the two big things that got everybody going. Let an engineer explain to you about that. And then you can get your second opinion from someone else if you don't trust town staff.
well, what does the board want to do? Can you ask any questions? You can ask questions. Where are you gonna go first?
If I can,
Yeah,
thank you.
trustee Wakeman.
Are there any issues that the full board would not be aware of that call for an investigation of our town administrator?
From what was brought to my attention, yes.
I personally have one that I would like looked into. I don't have enough information and I don't have enough there that I think this is the right time to bring that out. I need to understand more of what happened there, and that's why I'm trying to be judicious. Again, it's not fair to others. It's both sides we're trying to be fair to. This is not a Tim crusade. This is both sides. We've got a situation, and this is outside of Lot Holdings. I'm telling you right now, it's outside of Lot Holdings. It's not Lot Holdings. There's another situation I'm aware of that I have concerns about inequity. And I need to understand more about that situation prior to us discussing it right now. So no, I don't want to air this out right now and go off so-called half-cocked. There's information I still need. And maybe once I find out that information, it's null and void. Maybe this is not placed. But I need to understand that before I can make that decision. I don't think it's fair to you, and I don't think it's fair to the accuser for me to jump in, willy-nilly and just kind of say that. There are some questions if we want to address some specifics, particularly revolving around the last meeting. I don't see a particular problem with that. I don't want to just dive into 4 pages worth of stuff and be here till 2 a.m. I don't think that's fair to anybody. But I do think there are some things, like you mentioned, the lateral and the second lift, that we could discuss.
Please.
And if you want to bring some evidences or some things that help us understand what happened, that helps us understand it. And we can kind of understand what happened, what were the decisions made based on what evidence, how does this come to play? And I'm directing these comments to you. That's my perception of, I think, you've done the work of bringing some people that can give us some educated, insight as to what happened. It's still ours we have to make a decision, I think, but
Correct.
it helps us to understand the full picture, at least fill in as many blanks as we can.
Does that mean I have permission or no?
Yes,
Yes.
by all means.
Before you start that though, why would you not come and ask me an ambiguous question or whatever prior to suspending me so you have time to look into it? Do you think that sounds fair to someone that is in charge of
Okay.
a community?
Yes. So before you presume, this suspension and this situation did not revolve around or come about because of that. That was totally in the background. And then because of this, it has raised further concerns about this other situation, which I had initially dismissed. I initially dismissed it out of my mind. I thought it wasn't that big of a deal. Now it seems like it might be something worth looking into. So as far as coming to you personally, absolutely, and we can. I was not prepared at this meeting to enter into all of these investigation type things. The point of this was let's find a point to hit the pause button and kind of lay everything out and understand the situation. So I won't speak any further to that particular moment. If you want to discuss, let's do that. I want to understand. I think it's wise to do the private investigator side and or whatever it is. I think it's wise to get a third party that can see it in a different light.
Ask first and see if there's any
Okay.
merit
So
to
we'll
it.
cover that in a second. Did you have something regarding the lateral?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you something you probably don't hear very often in these chambers, but if you're looking for somebody to blame about the lateral, it was me. I missed it. I had just started my contract with the town. I didn't know the history. I didn't know the infrastructure. I get slapped with a set of drawings. The lateral is shown nowhere on any drawing except for one. It wasn't a construction document. It was just one sheet that showed existing conditions. I reviewed the plans. Public Works reviewed the plans. Planning reviewed the plans. It was all done under the radar.
Mhm.
That lateral was not, first of all, Mr. Hall is a very sophisticated developer. He knows water rights. He knows responsibility for preserving the infrastructure of a irrigation ditch. He just took advantage of an opportunity. The new kid on the block. If I just slide it in there and get that one approved, I don't have to pay for it. Town problem. So that's how we got to it. So again, if you want to blame somebody for taking a firm stand with Lot Holdings, blame me. Because we met 3 times with Lot Holdings and they said, oh yeah, we'll do it, we'll do it, we'll do it. They never did it. We had a 3rd meeting. Oh, we ordered the flume, we're gonna do it. The flume was never ordered. I mean, we have not had true partnership with Lot Holdings on every development. We did, now let's talk about that second map. John Hall came into the town, and it was wintertime. The plants were closing. We had just adopted a new roadway specification that we're not going to allow the old pavement design. It's a rigid pavement CDOT design, and it doesn't last. So there's a new pavement design. It's called a flex pavement. So we presented to the previous board before you came on, sir, new standards, roadway, drainage, utilities, the whole 9 yards. We took Milliken from the 20th century of having no structure. You have subdivisions being built that don't even comply with your code. Roadway geometry was being built that wasn't approved by this board or this body or adopted as policy. So we worked with Lot Holdings. We actually sent all of those development standards out. Every single one of them said, please review, make comment, tell us what you don't like. We reached out and engaged fully. They said, hey, we love it. We do business in Greeley all the time. This is just like Greeley standards. Well, it should. We took Greeley standards and pretty much put Milliken's name on it, took out some of the things that we didn't think were right for Milliken that Greeley has adopted. And we came out with a really good head start from what you had. You had a section in your code that nobody was building by. All right, I don't know what to do with that as an engineer. When you guys ask me, make sure that people are doing business properly in our town. Make sure that we're not what I call inheriting the dead cats. You don't want liabilities any more than what you're already going to incur with future growth. So working with Lot Holdings on that second map, John Hall came in, plants are closing, said, I want to pull building permits and I want you guys to release some of my construction bond. Well, currently there's no provision in your policy that allows that. We said, at staff, we could support that. I could do a partial release if you've got all your water and your sewer back tees and pressure tests and got cameras done on the sewer. We could do a partial release on that, but there wasn't policy. And we can't just approve that willy-nilly at the staff level. So we asked Lot Holdings to come to you and say, would you as a board consider partial release of bonds? We can work that out, but right now there isn't a provision to do it. So it's either 100% complete or keep the bond posted. Well, neither one of those 2 answers was the right answer. They ended up not putting the top mat on, which in the end of the day was good for the town because they had subgrade failures, the bottom mat failed. They had to come back in the spring and cut out 3 major sections of the interior roadway. If we had put the top mat down, well, that road would look big patches. Mm-hmm. So we were trying to be proactive in working with the development community. They wanted some stipulations that we couldn't grant them at the staff level, so that's not popular, but they didn't want to do the legwork to come to you guys to get policy made and drafted that would actually allow us to come to you and say, Madam Mayor, members of the board, at the staff level, we make a recommendation of a partial release of the bond. Sir, you make an absolute valid point. Communication is key. But communication tends to go one way. I don't know what else to say. I've read those 4 pages of various accusations and, you know, I guess I would ask you this. Do your investigation before you do your suspension. Ask the right questions before you take the wrong action. That would be something the staff would ask support. I'm going to make mistakes and I'll stand right here and own them. I'm not going to blame them on somebody else. I'm not going to shift them because the shift is the shaft. I own it. So if you want to fire somebody, fire me. I just do what he is asked to do, and that's bring the town of Milliken into the 21st century and brings daylight to the way transactions are occurring. There's water certificates. Let's talk about the water certificates that you guys, I don't know who negotiated that. Every community in Colorado takes 1 acre-foot of water for every dwelling unit that comes into the community. Lot Holdings only provides you 1/3 of an acre-foot per unit with water that isn't even CBT quality water. It's Hillsborough water that only is delivered 25% of the year. You guys lost nearly $20 million
Okay.
in water dedication.
We've gone off track here, though. Okay. We need
I'm
to
sorry,
stick to
ma'am.
the subject.
I do get emotional because at
Thank
the
you.
staff level, we're working our tails off to make you guys look good. So you can hold your head high in the community and be proud of what's going on out there. We don't want you guys being assaulted in the grocery frozen food section. We don't want you being hassled at church. We want you to be proud of your staff. We want you to be proud of the fact that you're
Okay.
actually representing.
We're going to
Thank
wind
you.
that up. Thank you.
Just, I would like to make one comment on what John said. It was not his fault. The documentation on the document wasn't standard to the way you would remove an irrigation lateral, and nowhere on the document does it say removal of irrigation lateral. It says stormwater ditch or vacation of stormwater drainage.
A lateral ditch is not a storm structure. A lateral ditch was a historic structure that has delivered water to Ehrlich Reservoir, had irrigated that farm for nearly a century. There is not necessarily on a ditch a prescribed easement. A prescribed easement is very well defined, has a meets and bounds, has a document recorded over at the county clerk and recorder given a reception number. But then there are structures that were built in the late 1800s when there wasn't a county clerk and recorder, and those are called patent easements. And the patent easements are not necessarily, they don't say 10 feet of this side or 20 feet of that side. They just say this ditch was here before you, and that ditch is going to stay here long after you. And that's what this ditch had. I, again, made the mistake of not protecting that interest. I use leverage, asked him to use leverage to get Lot Holdings to do the right thing. It was not disingenuous. It was not unethical. It was really the only tool that we have at the municipal level to engage with some of the development community that doesn't want to do its fair share.
2 points. You cannot take away a farmer's lateral ditch. You've got God, Ditch Company, Railroad. Anybody that has a ditch, if you move it off, you're in serious legal implications. Number 2, you cannot run stormwater drainage into a ditch. A ditch is its own independent water.
Well,
They know that stormwater and irrigation ditch are 2 different things. Am I right?
yeah, Mr. Bernhardt could definitely speak to that. Ditch companies do not like stormwater running into their ditch because of the pollutants. I mean, there's hydrocarbons, oils, there's all sorts of stuff that comes off the streets. They don't want it in their irrigation water that they're gonna go and put on their fields. So, and in the water world, we use a term of coloring water with water rights. You commingle a lot of water into a single structure, but you have to account for all the different priorities and who has a senior degree. And delivery has to occur to where the first in priority is first to right. And then as people fall out of priority. And so the ditch companies are very, very protective of their infrastructure. I mean, I'm sure many of you with the agricultural community know this. I'm not saying anything that you haven't heard. So that's the thing. That I don't know where this note came from on the drawing, but the lateral ditch isn't a stormwater structure. Your stormwater structure is a drainage ditch that comes from Prairie Sky, travels along Alice, and then along the north side of the property into the detention pond. The Ehrlich lateral is on the opposite side of the property to feed a completely different structure. So this vacation of, this is what I call the confusion and conflation. If I use the right term, it was stormwater easement. Well, there is no stormwater easement. So I don't know what he vacated in a stormwater easement, but there is definitely an irrigation easement. That got disrupted. And we're trying to reestablish that. And Mr. Hall is of the opinion that your dumb engineer, Mr. Binder, missed it. Make your dumb engineer pay for it. So, I mean, that's where the impasse came from. That's why, you know, Mr. Hall wants to make claims that we're holding up this and holding up that. No, we just asked Mr. Hall to do what he has promised he would do. And he hasn't done it. And so he wants us, so give me permits, give me this, take my water. But I don't want to do what I told you I was going to do a month ago or 3 months ago. So again, I appreciate your time, Mayor, and I appreciate the board affording what I truly believe is part of the due process. I respect the fact that you don't want to get into the nuances of particular personnel matters, but when it comes to engagement with the community and building relationships with your citizens, you got somebody right here engaged with the Schneiders, engaged with a myriad of other landowners who, I heard this saying, are not necessarily members of Milliken, but they are members of your community. And they are directly impacted by the decisions made in these chambers. And so I think you're right. You should do your investigation, and it should be hearty and thorough, and it should be a third party. But before you implement punishment, first gather the facts. You would expect that if you were being charged with a criminal.
Okay, I
Or
think
a
we've
civil-
made this point, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you. You have a question?
I have a comment.
Yes.
I would propose to my fellow board members that perhaps rather than going to an investigation, we need to take some time to, as a board and as a town administrator, to work through some of these questions that are before us. That was part of my question of if any of the board members were aware of anything other than what came in the unsigned document. And I believe that our town administrator has, should have the capability and the right to present information to us as to what his position is on that before we start accusations, investigations, those types of processes. Perhaps there's simple clarity in some of the concerns that have come to our attention, and some discussion with him might get us to that point rather than taking him off of work for 30 days and having an investigation. But that was my question of, is anyone aware of anything that perhaps becomes a legal issue other than what we have in that document? I know there were some accusations in that document, but that's what they are, is accusations. And I feel like we are intelligent enough as a board to go through that and look at it. And if we need more information, we have the resources available to us to find the answers to those questions. And I'll make that an emotion if anybody's ready for it. But if other people feel differently than I do, then maybe we need to discuss it more.
Okay. There are other issues. So,
What are they?
Without running the rag and back around the
yeah,
wheelhouse, I think there are enough other things. And I can't speak to anybody else's issues. I know I have some questions myself.
Questions or legal issues, things that
I don't know without going, again, this is a very fast moving thing. And so without talking to Matt further or trying to understand, could they be? Maybe, I don't know. I'm trying, that is for me personally. That is me trying to understand what's the ramifications of these things. Are they just simply accusations? Number one, are they true? Number two, if they are true, what's the result of those things? So there's a number of things that need to kind of unfold here. And I can't look at the book and give you a report on what's inside yet. I have to open it up and read it. So that's where I'm at. And personally, I think there are things that are outside of the 4-page accusation that I have questions about, that I want answers to as to the facts of the matter and may have further repercussions. I don't know. Is it, are we talking about robbing banks? No. But, where does that fall on the scale of Catholic nun to robbing banks? I don't know.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm still trying to find out for myself on certain issues. Maybe others in the board have their own things that they're trying to understand. There's a lot coming to light here that I was not aware of prior. And so I think it's worth a due diligence to hear out the matter and see what's happening. And at the same time, without getting into too much, I don't know if I could if I could ask the police officer, but if you have a situation where you're not sure of who's what, who's friend and who's foe, just handcuff everyone and sit down. Let's everybody sit down and hear out the matter, see what's going on. Huh?
It's a little rough analogy, but
I'm not trying to be rough. I'm not trying to be rough in the analogy. What I'm saying is that sometimes you need to take a break. Everybody cool down. Let's just hear the matter. I feel like if you force us into all these things, we're rushing to the conclusions. I don't want to rush to conclusions. If you don't give us the opportunity to kind of hear the matter out, and I hear what the point is about, well, if you suspend them, there's honestly, it would be a great thing if we can come back after 10, 15, 30, however many days and say, you know what, we've dug into it, we found this, this, and this. You're absolutely right. You did a great thing. Keep going. If that's the case, if that's what comes out of it, that's what comes out of it. But if we dig into it, we say, okay, this, and this, okay, these are issues that we're concerned about. Now we can address those. I really think that having some time to step back and look at the matter as a whole without continuing further development, and now the case is moving on. Now there's more things happening, and now the investigation we're having here, well that's changed now because now we did this over here, and now I can't put pieces together as to what's happening because it's constantly, the storm is still rolling. That's where I feel like taking a moment to stop the train and kind of figure out who's on board, what's going on, is worth the look.
This feels like a different procedure than I would have had in the past. If there has been a question of somebody's short of wrongdoing, that you would get to the basis of the problem and then determine, and if the person made a mistake or some type of wrongdoing, then that is when maybe your investigation would come into play.
Okay.
To me, we're jumping the gun a little bit with this, that working with Tim and researching, finding out some of this information among our staff and ourselves, rather than bringing in outside people, seems a more fair process to me than, because frankly, if I were Tim and you told me to take a leave for 30 days, I'd say take a flying leave. Because his integrity has been questioned. That's the thing that will be remembered by people is, well, he was off for 30 days, but I don't ever remember if it was resolved or what happened with it. And that does not seem fair to me. And I feel like as a board, we should have been asking our questions and finding out what was going on rather than all at once jumping to, we need an investigation. And there's things I think need to be straightened out. I think we need a better working relationship. We need to act like a board.
Mhm.
He needs to act like an administrator. And we haven't been doing a real good job with our process for quite some time. And I've made a lot of noise about it, but I haven't fixed anything yet. So maybe I need to work on fixing, but that's my perspective of where we're at.
I would second that motion.
I think we need to have a third outside party. My opinion is we have tit for tat. And I'm a facts-based person. I want facts. I don't want to hear gossip over here, and I don't want to hear gossip over there. And I think as a small town, we have a lot of relationships between this person and that person and another person. And to me, I get the relationships, but I want facts. I don't want he said, she said, they said, I said. In my opinion is I think a third party would be the best idea for the community to be straightforward with the citizens, with the town, and as a board is my personal opinion.
So to address your point, Peggy, when that letter first came in, we wanted to have an executive session and go over it point by point. Tim wanted it open. That was supposed to be the meeting on 6/24. Never got addressed. So it's not like we didn't try. And then all of a sudden, we're trying to ask questions and pull information out of him. And no, we don't know. In this meeting, we probably, if it was closed, would be willing to ask those questions of Tim. But no, it's open, and here it comes back to, don't want to air dirty laundry in public. So that's where we are today, and that's how we got here.
And I value and appreciate everyone's opinion, please.
Yeah.
Don't think I don't.
Oh, I don't.
Understand? Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other board comments?
I don't understand why you don't want to air the dirty laundry. This is an open meeting.
Because we don't want to
Open
make,
meeting law.
we don't want to make accusations that may not be true, because some people are very tunnel visioned and they hear that, and then the next thing you know, there's gossip going out there saying he did it or he didn't do it.
And to answer you, Scott, from my position, I think it would be foolish of me to present an accusation to him that I haven't founded yet. If I don't know whether or not there's truth behind it, I need to understand that before I then go to Tim and say, hey, here's the fact, here's what I'm understanding is being said. And again, I've
Well,
had
do that. Go
Huh?
to Tim and talk to him,
Right.
please.
I can go privately, and
Yeah.
there is that.
Absolutely.
But again, I'm still getting the information. We're not rushing this, they're separate things that are now colliding on a track that weren't ever intended to. That I am moving at my pace of looking into those things as I ought to, as a representative. And so I am doing that in one path. And it just so happens that now we're crossing the path with this information. And now this is becoming part of that when it never was to begin with. So now, as of last Wednesday, and now I'm being, in a sense, rushed into or pushed into a rush judgment, or to rush and find a bunch of details. And all I was saying was I was answering Peggy's question as to, are there other concerns outside the letter? My answer simply is yes, there are. I would like some time to do due diligence and actually understand the situation and make a proper judgment, not a hasty judgment. And I
Have you
don't,
mentioned these to the mayor?
no, not those particular. No, these are, again, no one on this board knows this issue that I'm looking at.
Okay.
And that's there's a reason for that. I think it's part of my responsibility to look into the matter before I start just sending stuff. Hey, did you hear so-and-so? Did you hear? That goes back to he said, she said. And until I know it's not a he said, she said, until I know it's fact, for me to present it here or anywhere only mars somebody's character. Either it's going to mar his character, Tim, or it's going to mar the accuser's character, which is not, because I can't present the fact without bringing the facts. And now if I present a fact that's not fact, I look like a fool, and so does the person who told me, whose name is now in a recording and it's now out for everyone to see. That's not wise. And then to the point of we did want some answers, And it was requested, and Tim's choice was to do this. I would much prefer this discussion happen with us and Tim and the recording and everything be us and not be here on the cameras for the whole world to see, so we can get some answers without airing everything, dirty laundry or clean or brand new. I don't care if it still has the tags on it. You know, I want to understand the information before I'm being forced in to make a decision on judgment.
Okay, any other comments?
I do have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
This other issue, is it related to lot holding or is it a separate issue?
Separate issue, outside of lot.
Can I ask a question?
So you have two issues? You have an issue? Yes.
Yes, Tim, what is your question?
Is the other issue in regards to the County Road 46 project?
That is part of one issue, yes.
We already went over that. By, just look at this tape when you get a chance. The way you just frame this whole question, I'm sitting close to a red Solo cup and I'm being accused of something, but nobody knows what it is. I know myself. I know my character. A lot of people know me. There is nothing I have done that I would be embarrassed that I could have possibly even been misconstrued doing in town. I'm not afraid for you to say whatever it is. I think your fear is the liability of who's accusing, and if it's that bad that I can't even do my job until you look into it, this is horrid. How could anything like that be so great that I can't do my job until you can at least ask the question? You're implying something dastardly and horrible that as people try and figure out what you're implying, it's got to be a hell of a lot worse than anything I could possibly have done. You're destroying my character, and I don't appreciate it.
Okay. Do you have any other board discussion?
We have a comment.
May I say something? I have worked under every town manager that the town of Milliken has ever had, the one way or the either a board or I was on the town board and I was senior coordinator, whatever. And so I know what has gone on, but let me tell you, it's not easy to get a town manager. And you don't see them standing in line wanting to be a town manager for Milliken. You know, it's hard. We found one that was so good and has done so much for this town. What I can't figure out why you guys are doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I have a
Anybody want-
motion.
Yes. Go ahead.
I move that the town board and Tim Singwald work very hard to work together to resolve the issues that are being talked around today. And that if there are allegations of wrongdoing, that whenever that comes to light, we will address those at that time.
I second that.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Yes, ma'am. Trustee Smith,
Yes.
trustee Gankus,
No.
trustee Wickman,
Yes.
trustee Rodriguez,
No.
trustee Trailer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich,
No.
Mayor Austin,
No.
Motion failed.
Okay, I'll take another motion.
I move to approve resolution number 20-17.
I'll second it.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Yes, ma'am. Give me 1 second, please.
Mhm.
Trustee Wakeman,
No.
trustee Smith,
No.
trustee Grandquist,
Yes. May I make a comment to my yes?
Sir.
So I want to say yes, because I do believe that removing bias during this time is best. This is not, again, a mar on character. This is trying to remove any kind of bias or outside input and get the facts of the matter as they stand. Thank you.
trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Trailer,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Ehrlich,
Yes, and I will add a comment that this was a recommendation of our town attorney and legal staff for this group.
Mayor Austin,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you. Is there any other business before the board? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Oh,
Wait a minute.
do we have a comment?
I just want to make a comment. I've heard a lot about investigations and stuff. I think you all need to go over your papers and stuff that you signed with Hall Irwin. A lot of you haven't been here as long as a lot of these other people have. And some of those aren't just rumors. And you're suspending Tim, which puts the annexation on hold.
Thank you.
Blew $50 million. Thank you.
Anything else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're done.